Morning and welcome in the next lecture of the electromagnetic field theory. In this subject, we are studying about the electromagnetic field theory. In previous lecture, we have discussed about the uh, electric fields, electric field lines, Coulomb's law, Gauss law, electric flux, electric flux density, and we have also discussed the vector calculus, dot product, cross product, and coordinate systems. We have discussed the three types of the coordinate system in the electromagnetic field theory to understand the electromagnetic field concept. Uh, First is the rectangular coordinate system, that is known as Cartesian coordinate system. Second is cylindrical coordinate system, which is known as circular system, and last is the spherical system, which is applicable for sphere. So up to this we have cleared the relationship of the electric field intensity and the charge, how the charge is develop the electric field or electric potential. Now today we are going to discuss about the electric dipole, electric potential, energy, work due to the electric field. And in the last, we have here to discuss the conductor, semiconductor, and insulators. The main content of this video lecture is the electric dipole, electric potential, work, energy, conductor, and semiconductor. These are the main content of this video lecture. Today we are going to discuss these topics. Now, prerequisites to learn this lecture, to understand this lecture, the student is required to learn the vector calculus, Coulomb's law, vector form of the Coulomb's law, electric field intensity. They are also able to understand the electric flux and Gauss law, electric flux density. These are the main prerequisites for understanding of the electric fields or dipole and conductor, semiconductor, and insulators. Course is focused on the foundation of electromagnetic field theory. In this lecture, student will learn the electric dipole and conductor, semiconductor, and insulator theory. The basic learning objective of this video lecture is that student will able to understand the concept of electric dipole, electric potential, energy, and work in the field of electrostatics, the conductor, semiconductor, and insulator. Student will understand the concept of the conductors, semiconductors, and insulators. They will differentiate the three types of the materials. These are the textbook and other references which is used to learn the electric dipoles, conductor, semiconductor, and other field or other topics of electromagnetics. The principle of the electrostatics fourth edition by Sadhu is the very good book for beginners to understand the electrostatics theory. The main outcome of this video lecture is that the student will familiar with the electric dipole, concept of the electric potential, energy, and work in the case of electrostatics theory. They will also understand and learn the conductor, semiconductor, and insulators. They will learn the difference between the conductor, semiconductor, and insulator. They will understand the concept of these three materials. An electric dipole consists of 2 point charges of equal magnitude but of opposite sign and separated by a small distance. The electric dipole consists of 2 point charges. So the magnitude of these charges will be the same, but the sign is opposite. And these are the separated by a small distance. So the electric dipole is formed. As shown in the figure, the dipole is formed by the 2 point charges Q and minus Q. The magnitude of charges is same, but the sign of charges is opposite. Separated by the distance d, the charges being placed symmetrically about the origin. Let us consider a point P at a distance r where to find the field. See from the figure, as we have discussed, that a rod or a dipole has positive charge and negative charge at the end, and it is at the distance d, and it has a point P at the distance r, and r1 is the distance from the q, and r2 is the distance from the minus q, and the angle is formed by the z axis is theta. So this dipole is placed at the origin in the xy plane. Now we will calculate the potential at P point due to the dipole can be written as V is the electric potential 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q upon R1 minus Q upon R2, which we have already discussed in the previous lecture about the electric potential or electric field voltage. So Q upon 4 pi epsilon naught into R2 minus R1 upon R1 R2. This is the potential at P point due to the R distance or R1 or R2 distance due to the Q and Q charges. So R2 minus R1 is equal to the 2d cos theta upon 2, or it will become d cos theta. From the trigonometry, we are able to calculate it is producing the theta angle with the z direction. So we able to calculate the point P and R2 minus R1, that is the R2 minus R1 is given by the 2 times of d cos theta upon 2. So R1 is equal to, nearly equal to the R2, it is equal to R. Now we assume that R1 R2 is equal to the R. So B equal to the Q upon 4 pi epsilon d cos theta upon R square. So potential at the point P due to the dipole at r distance is written as Q upon 4 pi epsilon d cos theta R square. This is the potential. We can write further that Q d cos theta is equal to the Q d Az dot AY. The quantity P equal to the QD is called the dipole moment of electric dipole. Hence, the expression for the electric potential can now be written as V equal to the P A R upon 4 pi epsilon naught R square, where the P is the dipole moment. It may be noted that while the potential of an isolated charge varies with the distance as 1 upon r, that of an electric dipole varies as 1 upon r square with the distance. See from this equation, if the dipole is not centered at the origin, but dipole center lies at r, the expression for the potential can be written as P equal to the P, where P is the moment, electric moment, R minus R dash on 4 pi epsilon R minus R dash Q, if the dipole is not centered at the origin. The electric field for the dipole centered at the origin can be computed as equal to the minus del V is equal to del V upon del R AR plus 1 upon R del V del theta A theta, which is equal to the QD cos theta upon 2 pi epsilon naught RQ AR plus QD sin theta upon 4 pi epsilon naught RQ A theta. Now the equation will become QD upon 4 pi epsilon naught RQ 2 cos theta EY plus sin theta A theta. So E is equal to the P upon 4 pi epsilon naught R cube. So in the bracket 2 cos theta AY plus sin theta A theta. Here P is equal to the electric moment and it is given by the Q into D is the magnitude of the dipole moment. Once again, we note that electric field of electric dipole varies as 1 upon r cube, whereas that of a point charge varies as 1 upon r square. Now we have the work done by the electrostatic field or electric field. It is often useful to characterize any stream any systems that can impose forces on an object by the work it does that to that object. Suppose a charge q1 is located near another charge q. The force acting on q causes the work to be done by displacing q at a distance dl. So dw is equal to the minus f dot dl, which is equal to q e dot dl. So work done is equal to the F dot dl and is equal to the, you know that F is the related with the electric field intensity and charge. So F is equal to the Q dot E dot dl. So this is the work done in terms of the electric field and charge. The negative sign indicates that the work done by an external agent Q1, thus the total work done or the potential energy required to move Q a distance dl from A to B is W is equal to the minus Q A to B E dot dl. So W is equal to the minus Q, integrate from A to B E dot dl. This is equal to B E minus V A into Q. So work done and energy in the electrostatic field. To determine the energy present in an assembly of charges, we must first determine the amount of work necessary to assemble them. Suppose we position three charges Q1, Q2, and Q3 in an initial empty space. Initially, there is no work done to transfer the charge Q1 from infinity to our workspace because the space is the initially charged, free with no electric field in the region. However, there is a field present from the Q1 when we move Q2 into the position. The work done by transferring the Q2 into the our work space is the product of the Q2 times the potential difference between the Q1 and Q2. The same is true as we position charge Q3 with respect to charge Q1 and Q2. Here the work done by charges Q1, Q2, Q3. The work done is the W1 plus W2, W3. W is equal to the 0 plus Q1 V21 plus Q3 V31 plus V32. If the charge was positioned in the reverse order, then work done is total work done by charge Q1 and Q3 is equal to the W1, W2, W3 is equal to 0 plus Q2 V23 plus Q3 V12 plus V13. Thus, by adding the all the works possibly performed obtained, that is the 2W is equal to the by adding of these two equations in the reverse order and in the forward order. So we will get that 2 of work W is equal to the 0 plus Q2 V23 plus Q3 in the bracket V12 plus V13 plus 0 plus Q1 V21 plus Q3 V31 plus V32. So this is the total work done. It is comes as Q1 V1 plus Q2 V2 plus Q3 V3. So W equal to the 1 upon 2. The summation from value K is vary from 1 to N 2K VK. So work done is the same as summation of the product charge and electric field intensity. So work done is the depend on electric field intensity. Therefore, one can write that the energy W present in an electrostatic field due to bandwidth for the PAL system is the 7 megahertz. Cancellation of the phase errors. So in the case of cancellation of the phase error, this is the phasor diagram. First is the no phase error. And second, and show the subcarrier phasor on two consecutive lines whilst third is the depicts location of the resultant phasors at demodulators. Note that the phasor U plus JV Susan for this illustration represents a near magenta shades. This is the figure B, cancellation of the phase errors. PAL D system. This is the in the PAL D system we have U and V output of UV-DV modulators, and it has some adder and subtractor. This is the PAL coder or transmitter section. Uh, how the signal is transmitted in the case of the PAL transmitter section. So this is the complete block diagram shows that the PAL transmitter section. This is the PAL D receiver. So antenna is received and tuned for VHF and UHF frequencies, and we have a RF type of the super heterodyne receiver for the audio and video signals. So in the receiver signal, color signal is developed in the form of D minus Y, G minus Y, R minus Y. Three color text signal is developed, and this signal is given to the picture tubes. So this is the PAL receiver diagram. This is the again another type of the PAL receivers. Now we have a new type of the color TV standard, that is the SECAM, sequential color A memory, or sequential color with memory. It is used in the French. In the SECAM, only one of the color difference signal is transmitted at a time, that is the during the one line. The other color difference signal is transmitted during the next line. Because of the odd number of the lines per picture, if another line carries, that is R minus Y signal during the one picture, it will carry the B minus Y signal during the scanning of the following picture. A delay line of the 64 microsecond is used as a memory to produce the both the color signals available simultaneously. The determination of proper sequence of color line is done by identification pulses. SECAM third, the one variant of the SECAM commonly used, that is uses the 625 lines 50 pins with the channel bandwidth of the 8 megahertz. So there is the difference in the three schemes in the bandwidth. In the NTSC, we used 6 megahertz. In the PAL, we used 7 megahertz, and SECAM used 8 megahertz channel bandwidth. Sound carrier at the 5.5 megahertz. Weighted color difference signal are called the R is equal to the 1.9 R minus Y, and the B is equal to the 1.5 B minus Y. So FM is used for the sound color subcarrier, and hence phase changes does not produce URRs. The weighting factor for R minus Y is minus 1.9. The color subcarrier is at 4.4375 megahertz. However, for suppressing the dot pattern in the picture, two separate subcarriers are used: 4.40625 for R minus Y and 4.250 megahertz for B minus Y, 272H and 282H. In the next, we have a color difference signal, that is the bandwidth is the color difference signal bandwidth is 1.5 megahertz. The pre-emphasize is used uh, before the FM. A second level of the pre-emphasis is done, known as the high frequency pre-emphasize. This increases the amplitude of the signal and improves the signal to noise ratio. Switching between DR and DB take place during the line synchronization. Pulse and line identification signals are used to identify and proper switching of the color lines. This is the CCAM order or transmitter section, how the signal is processed and transmitted through the CCAM coder and transmitter section. So through this block diagram, we are able to understand the concept of transmitter. This is the CCAM decoder. Here the signal is decoded from the antenna, and composite video signal is received by antenna and is decoded, and the Y signal and DR and DB signal is produced by the circuitry, and finally to amplifier and make matrix signal is the VR, VG and VB, which is applied to the picture tubes. Now we have the advantages of CCAM. Because of the FM, CCAM receivers are immune to phase distortion. Since only one chrome signal at a time, there is no possibility of crosstalk between the chrome signals. No need for QAM at transmitter. No need for separate manual hue and saturation control. Due to the above, CCAM receivers are simple and cheap. Now we have some disadvantages for the CCAM scheme. The vertical resolution is inferior because one line signal combines with the other to retrieve the color. Luminance is represented by the amplitude of a signal and saturation by frequency deviation. In case of signal fade out, the luminance may be attenuated, but chrome not affected. This may make color more saturated during the fade out. Digitizing CCAM is difficult since only one color difference signal is available at a time. Now we have some multiple choice question on the basis of the color TV picture tubes and the color TV standards. So first type of the multiple choice question: which type of the amplifiers are used in the high level transmitter? A class C amplifier, B class A amplifier, C no amplifier used, and D none of the above. Question number 2: in the digital TV, ADC conversion is done by A pulse code modulated system, B DPCM, C delta modulation, D adaptive delta modulation. In a TV receiver set, Sound and video signals are separated at the A. Video detector, B. Video amplifier, C. Sync separator, D. IF stage. The three primary colors in the luminous signal of a color TV are A. Red, green, orange, B. Red, green, blue, C. Blue, green, magenta, D. Yellow, green, cyan. Next multiple choice question, that is the fifth question. A television system having the that is the n is equal to the 525 and p is equal to the 25 frames per second has a horizontal sync frequency of E 50, B 15,625, C 625, D 525. This is the based on the NTSC scheme or NTSC system. Next, the signals sent by the TV transmitter to ensure correct scanning in the receiver are called A. Sync, B. Home signal, C. Luminous, and D. Video signal. Next, seventh question. The interlacing is used in the TV frames to A. Reduce the illusion of the motion. B. Ensure the scanning of all lines. C. Avoid the flicker. D. Avoid the humming. Question number 8. The separation of the sound and the picture carriers in our TV system is in the megahertz, that is the A is equal to the 5.5 megahertz, B 4.5, C 6, and D 5. Question number 9. The equalizing pulses in the TV are sent during A. Horizontal blanking, B. Vertical blanking, C. Horizontal retrace, D. Flickering. If a normal line sync pulse width is 4.7, its width of equalizing pulse is its A 4.6, B 2.3, C 9.2, D 1.5. So the conclusion of today's video lecture is that today we have discussed the important part of TV receiver system. So the picture tubes is the very much important part of TV receiver system. This picture tube is convert the electrical voltage signal into the image. So in this video lecture, we have discussed three type of the picture tube. That is the delta gun, phase in line, and one more trinitron picture tubes. After that, we have discussed the different color TV standards. In this different color TV standard, we have discussed the NTSC scheme or PAL phase alternating line and SECAM sequential color memory. So all three standards are used by different countries. So today we have discussed these color TV system standards and some multiple choice question. So our main objective of this video lecture is fulfill that the student will understand the picture tube and color TV picture tubes, and they will understand the concept and construction of the color tube picture tubes. They will also understand and differentiate the three scheme of the color TV standards which is used in worldwide. Thank you. Into D equal to the epsilon naught epsilon r E. D is equal to the epsilon E. So this is the thus the dielectric constant or the relative permittivity of the material epsilon r is the ratio of the permittivity to the free space. If the electric field is too strong, then it begins to strip electrons completely from the molecules, leading to the short-term conduction of electrons within the media. This is called the dielectric breakdown. The maximum strength of the electric field that is a dielectric can tolerate priority to which breakdown occurs is called the dielectric strength. In the linear dielectrics, the permittivity epsilon does not change with the applied field E. Homogeneous dielectric do not change their permittivity from point to point within the material. Isotropic dielectrics do not change their dielectric constant with respect to the direction within the material. Two types of the dielectrics exist in the nature, polar and the non-polar. Non-polar dielectrics do not possess the dipole's moments until a strong electric field is applied. Polar dielectrics such as the water possess permanent dipole moments that further align, if possible, in the presence of an external field. Next, we have a conductor, semiconductor, and the insulators. It is the convenient to associate these energy level or energy states are permissible in given atom, and an electron must therefore absorb emit discrete amount of the energy or a quanta in the passing from one level to the another level. In a crystalline solid, such as a metal or a diamond, atoms are packed closely together. Many more permissible energy levels are available because of the interaction forces between the adjacent atoms. it can be observed that energies which may be caused by electrons are grouped into the broad ranges or bands, each band consisting of the very numerous closely spaced discrete level. At a temperature of the absolute zero, the normal solid also has every level occupied, starting with the lowest and proceeding in order until all the electrons are located. The electrons with the highest, least negative, that is energy level, the valence electrons are located in the valence band. If there are permissible higher energy level in the valence band, or if the valence band merge smoothly into a conduction band, then the additional kinetic energy may be given to the valence electrons by an external field, resulting in an electron flow. The solid is called a conductor. The filled valence band and unfilled conduction band are shown for the conduction. So, in the case of the conductors, the filled valence band and the empty conduction band. There is the no energy gap in the case of the conductors. There is an energy gap in the case of the insulator in between the filled valence band and the empty conduction band. Next, we have the semiconductor materials. In the semiconductor material, we have a small energy gap as compared to the insulator. So there is the small energy gap in between of the filled valence band and the empty conduction band. If, however, the electron with the greatest energy occupies the top level in the valence band and a gap exists between the valence band and the conduction band, then the electron cannot accept the additional energy in the small amounts and the material is an insulator. The greatest energy occupy to the top level in the valence band, and a gap exists between the valence band and the conduction band. In this case, there is the energy gap between the greatest energy gap between the conduction band and the valence band. The electron cannot accept the additional energy in the small amounts, and the material is an insulator. So this type of the material is known as insulators. The band structure is the indicated in the above figure. Note that if a relatively large amount of the energy can be transferred to the electron, it may be sufficiently excited to jump the gap into the next band, where the conduction occurs easily. Here the insulator breaks down. An intermediate condition occurs when only a small forbidden region separates the two bands as indicated in the figure. Small amounts of the energy in the form of the heat or an electric field may raise the energy of the electrostatic, the top of the filled band, and provide the basis for conduction. These materials are insulators which display many of the properties of the conductor and are called semiconductors. So semiconductor have the property of both type of the material, that is the insulator materials and the electric materials. So in this, we have a small energy gap between the conduction band and the valence band. Now, conductor free space boundary. When suddenly the charge distribution is unbalanced within a conducting material, there suddenly appear a number of the electrons in the interior of the conductor. The electrical field set up by these electrons are not countered by any positive charges, and the electrons begin to accelerate away from each other. This continues until the electrons reach to the surface of the conductor. Here, the outward progress of the electrons is stopped, for the material surrounding the conductor is an insulator, not possessing a conduction band. No charge will remain within the conductor. Hence, the final result within a conductor is zero charge density, and its surface charge density resides on the exterior surface. Also, for a static condition in which no current may flow, the electric field intensity within the conductor is zero. So, for electrostatics, no charge and no electric field may exist at any point within a conductor. Charge may appear on the surface as surface charge density. There will be a field external to the conductor, and this field can be decomposed into the two components, one tangential and one normal to the conductor surface. This is the free space conductor. We have a one normal and one tangential component of electric field vector and electric field density. The tangential component is seen to be zero. From this, you are able to understand that the tangential component to be zero. There will be a field external to the conductor, and this field can be decomposed into the two components, one tangential and one normal to the conductor surface. The tangential component is seen to be zero. If it were not zero, a tangential force would be applied to the elements of the surface, resulting in their motion and non-static conditions. Since static conditions are assumed, the tangential electric field intensity and electrical flux density are zero. So close integral of E dot dl equal to the zero. These are the relationship from the previous discussion, and E total equal to and delta W equal to zero, where E total equal to zero. So the product of the E total into delta W equal to 0. Closed integral of the D dot ds equal to the Q. Normal component of the D delta S equal to the rho S delta S. Normal component of the D equal to the rho S. This is equal to the dt equal to Et equal to 0. In the summary, the static electric field inside a conductor is 0. The static electric field intensity at the surface of a conductor is everywhere normal to the surface of the conductor. The conductor surface is an equipotential surface. Now, electric field in the material medium. Uh, we have discussed the conductor, insulator, semiconductor materials. Now we have to discuss the what is the electrical field in the material medium. Consider the charge distributions only in the free space and found its effect in the terms of electric field intensity, electric flux density, electrostatic potential. Now we will consider effect of charge distributions in the material medium. In general, based on the electric properties, materials can be classified into three categories: conductors, semiconductors, and insulators. Electric. In the conductor, we have already discussed three type of the materials: conductor, semiconductor, and insulator. We have discussed all three. Insulator is also known as the dielectric. So we have discussed the basic mechanism of conductor, semiconductor, dielectric materials. In the conductors, electrons in the outermost shells of atom are very loosely held and they migrate easily from one atom to the other. Most metals belong to this group. The electrons in the atoms of the insulators or dielectrics remain confined to their orbits, and under the normal circumstances, they are not liberated under the influence of an externally applied field. The electrical properties of semiconductors fall between those of conductors and insulators, since semiconductors have very few numbers of free charges. The parameter conductivity is used to characterize the macroscopic electrical properties of a material medium. Now in the next section, we have some multiple choice question on the basis of the conductor, semiconductor, insulator, dielectric materials, and electric field in the materials, and current continuity in the uh, conductors, and conductor, current, etc. First multiple choice questions. Force in a conductor is dash to product of the charges: A, directly proportional; B, inversely proportional; C, not related; D, cannot be determined. The force in a current carrying conductor is directly proportional to the product of two charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Second multiple choice questions. Force in a conductor is to the square of the distance between the charges. A, directly proportional; B, inversely proportional; C, not related; D, cannot be determined. The force in a current carrying conductor is directly proportional to the product of the two charges and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them. Calculate the force between the two charges having the magnitude 3 nanocoulombs and 2 nanocoulombs separated by the distance of the 2 micrometers. A 13.5 Newton, B 13.5 kilonewton, 13.1.35 Newton, D 1.35 kilonewton. From the expressions, the F equal to the K Q1 Q2 upon R square, the value of the K being 9 into 10 to the power 9, we get force 13.5 kilonewton. The ratio of magnetic force to the electric force on a charged particles getting undeflected in a field is A 1, B 0, C 2, D 4. When a charged particle is undeflected in a field, the magnitude of the magnetic force and electric force acting on the particle is the same, hence the ratio is 1. If the flow of the electric current is the parallel to the magnetic field, the force will be A 0, B infinity, C maximum, D half the original value. Explanation: the force is a cross product. A cross product involves the sign of the angle between them. If the two quantities are parallel to each other, the angle between them is 0. Sine 0 is 0, hence force is 0. Multiple choice question number 6. The weakest force in the nature is A, electric force, B, gravitational force, C, weak force, D, magnetic force. Gravitational force is the weakest force in the nature as it does not bind anything strongly with its help. The next question, the relation between the direction of the current and the direction of the force is A, same direction, B, opposite direction, C, perpendicular, D, unrelated. When a conductor carries a certain value of the current, the force developed in the conductor, the current in the conductor, and the magnetic field in the conductor are mutually perpendicular to each other. By increasing the temperature, the resistance of a conductor A increases, B decreases, C remains constant, D initially increases then decreases. 9. The right hand rule for determining the direction of the induced EMF was introduced by A. Faraday law, Lenz law, Fleming, and Maxwell equations. Last and 10th question. Inside a hollow conducting sphere, A electric field is 0. B electric field is a non-zero constant. C electric field changes with magnitude of the charge given to the conductor. D electric field changes with distance from the center of the sphere. The conclusion of today's lecture that after watching this video, student will understand the concept of the current, current density. They will also learn the conductors and the conventional and conduction type current in the conductors. They will also learn about the continuity of currents in the conductor. A part of this, student will understand the concept of the conductors, insulators, that is known as dielectrics, and semiconductor type of materials. They will understand the energy gap relationship between the three type of the materials such like conductor, insulators, and semiconductor. The student will also understand the electric field in the conducting materials or different materials. So in the coming lecture, next lecture, we will find the electric field in the conductor, insulators, that is known as dielectric, and semiconductor materials. So after watching this video, student uh, outcomes of the this video is that student will learn the continuity, conductor, insulator, dielectric materials, semiconductor materials. They will learn the current and conductor and electric field in materials. Thank you.